Hello, my name is Garfield, and welcome to my reading recap. Spoiler alert now, if you hear a title that you don't want spoiled, please skip ahead or click away. Any trigger warnings I think of, I'll put in the description below. Number 1, Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I gave 4 out of 5. I rushed through my physical read of this when it first came out, so I decided to give it a reread, and I liked it a little bit less. If I was rating the narration as well, we'd probably be at a 2.5. He sounded way too old to be a 16-year-old, and parts were overacted. I personally don't like acting in audiobooks. I like to use my own imagination. I would recommend reading this physically instead if you are able to. I did already recap this in a previous reading recap, so this time will be more adjustments and my thoughts. Starting with Lenore Dove. In the beginning, Hamish says she's a Baird. I do think she's Lucy Gray's daughter or granddaughter. I've seen this theory shut down a lot, but their reasoning has been, why would Snow come back to impregnate her after everything that happened between them? To that I say, who said it was his child? I think she survived the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, had a kid, and Snow tracked her down, poisoned her, and had her lineage live in District 12 again. At the end of this, Lenore Dove finds a bag of candy and happily eats them, and I have so many questions for that alone. Why would you eat candy you just found on the ground? And also, your boyfriend has returned, but instead of sending word his way so he can come see her, she's just lollygagging in her yard. I'll blame that one on the house arrest, I suppose, but still odd after he just survived the Hunger Games. She eats the candy, is poisoned, and her guardians say, "No, not again," implying that this has happened before. They were friends with Lucy Gray in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, so that's why I think Snow poisoned Lucy before. I don't think Lucy would have had a child intentionally if she was still in the districts, so I think she thought she was free, had one, and got poisoned and sent back to the districts. She has a grave here. While it's unclear if her body's in it, it's still possible, which would make this all make sense, especially with Hamish saying she was a Baird. That's my theory. As for why I liked this less on my second read, my initial excitement had worn off, so I could see a little more clearly. The little song and poem snippets felt overdone. Maybe I only felt that this time because of the narrator? I'm not sure. I only know it felt like too much. And that's coming from someone who loved all of the singing in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The rebellious rascal part felt forced. Talking about making posters all the time, it just felt stiff. The all fire thing felt forced as well. It doesn't flow well. Felt like Suzanne was trying to make fetch happen. Before the games start, Snow is puking a gross amount, and it's because he killed someone with poisoned clams and wanted to look like he didn't do it, so he poisoned himself too. Not enough to kill, but enough to have him violently throwing up. I don't get why he didn't just fake being poisoned. Why would you voluntarily make yourself puke that much? Despite all of the puke, I did enjoy the book. Some things I mixed up or missed last time were Hamish's illegal reaping was after Woodbine ran after being reaped, was killed, his mother was hysterical, and Lenore Dove is trying to get the peacekeepers to let his mom say goodbye. When Hamish sees she's about to get a rifle slam to the face, he jumps in and then gets reaped. He called Luella sweetheart because she's 3 years younger than him, and a few years back she used to follow him around with a little crush. That's a lot sweeter than how I initially took it on my first read, of him having his cake and eating it too. I didn't realize she was 13 until my second read. During the carriage rides, another carriage causes theirs to crash and they fly off, Luella brutally dying immediately. When the games get down to Hamish and a courier, the courier throws their axe into an out-of-bounds area that causes the axe to ricochet and hit her in the head. As they're both laying there dying, Hamish makes a bomb and tosses it in to break the arena, which shows a lot of rebellion and adds to why he gets punished later. I wonder if we'll get more Hunger Games prequels. The casting is getting harder and harder. This is already causing them to need third actors for some characters. Number 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles X Stranger Things, Volume 1, by Cameron Chittock. I gave 3.5 out of 5. A crossover graphic novel of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Stranger Things. The group of teens from Stranger Things are on a field trip in New York when they meet the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and together they battle monsters from each of their pasts. It's a fun crossover, nothing earth-shattering, but a fun read for sure. Number 3, The Complete Calvin and Hobbes Collection, Book 1, by Bill Patterson. I gave 3 out of 5. This is a 4-book collection, and it has taken me 17 months to complete the first book. I've read these comics as a kid, but as an adult, I can't help but wonder if these were made for kids at all. They reference politics, gun use, and a lot of other adult material. I think that being so jarring to me was why it took so long to finish. I did still enjoy it overall, though. Calvin is a 6-year-old boy who has a stuffed tiger named Hobbes. The comics are mostly Calvin's imagination, so Hobbes is seemingly a live tiger. All of Calvin's make-believe comes to life, much like in Rugrats. Sometimes we're shown the outside of the imagination, and Hobbes is a stuffed animal, or they're in a box instead of a spaceship. Those parts were funny and wholesome. It's just a bit odd to throw politics and gun use in the middle of wholesome children imaginings. Number 4, Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I gave 1 out of 5. I've read quite a few of this author's work already and was already under the understanding that I do generally like the baseline plots, but I do not like how overly sexual she writes. This one took the pornified cake, and I'm not here for that. I'm not going to even give this the respect of using the character names because it's not worth it. A secluded elder celebrity is hiding away in a small town and thinking of working on a memoir. Female author has been requesting to work on it, so celebrity invites her. Celebrity also invites male author. Once they both arrive, they're told they get 1 month to interview her and have to write pitches, and then she'll decide who gets to work on the book with her. Making authors essentially audition for a month with no pay, not even housing, is insane. The pay they're missing out on and living expenses, even going with minimum wage and the cheapest housing, is already about $5,000 for each person just for a possibility. Write your own damn memoir. Plus, these people probably have their own residences somewhere too that they're paying for. They're told they're competing, so it's set up as an enemies to lovers thing. I'll briefly mention the B plot. It felt like they were trying to do a Titanic storytelling thing, but it's done horribly. The celebrity is telling her life story and her family's life story, but it's incredibly boring. It might have been a little more interesting as its own standalone book, but this isn't the plot people came here for. So it has that feeling of commercials where you just don't care and you want to get back to why you're there, even though that story also sucks. The two authors run into each other a lot because it's a small town. She's weirdly pushy. He's minding his own business and she repeatedly invades his personal space, alone time, gives him snacks, tries to talk to him. It would be different if he was more open to it, but for a long time he seems really put off by it and even tells her they shouldn't be talking while in competition for the same job. They abruptly start throwing in sexual attention all over the place, and he keeps being a douche about it, like, we shouldn't go here because I'm gonna get the job and you'll be butthurt about it. The arrogance. There is zero substance between these two. No romance, no chemistry, they just think each other are hot and that's it. He pulls out of the running for the memoir, and she is rightfully offended at him for not thinking she could get it on her own, and that he had to do this big favor for her. She realizes he's the celebrity's son in one of her interviews and tries bringing them together. Female author runs home to her mom's, where she's horribly depressed because she was in love with this guy she hung out with barely. You weren't in love with him. You don't even know him. You just made out sometimes, and then he was a dick to you afterwards. Eventually, he shows up though, and they end up together. Ugh. I am so sick of books being labeled as romance when they're anything but romantic. Always taking recommendations for any good romances without sex. Doesn't have to be fully asexual, but things like 5 Feet Apart and Me Before You are great romantic stories with no sex. If you know of anything similar, please let me know. Number 5, The Ninth Garfield Fat Cat 3-pack by Jim Davis. I gave 3.5 out of 5. A collection of Garfield comics from the early 90s. As you probably already know, Garfield is a fat, lazy, sarcastic cat that lives with John and his dog Odie. This collection includes a lot of macho strips and a lot on spiders. John is frequently wondering if he's macho enough, if girls will like him, if he needs to do anything to be more macho. I'm wondering if the author was feeling these things at the time of writing. Jim, John, I guess there are some similarities between the two. There were also many strips on spiders. Garfield getting stuck in spider webs, John cooking with Garfield's spider killer, aka a spatula. There were so many, which leads me to wonder if Jim was dealing with a spider infestation while writing these. I do still really enjoy Garfield. After recently reading some Calvin and Hobbes and realizing how political and weird some of it was, this felt really lighthearted from start to finish, which I appreciated. Number 6, Could You Be More Pacific by Charles M. Schulz. I gave 3.5 out of 5. Another classic collection of comics, this time Peanuts edition. These are from the late 80s and follow around Charlie Brown, his peers, and his dog Snoopy. This has a nostalgic feel to it before 5 screens in every room. I never realized before how little Charlie himself is actually in the comics. Number 7, Do You Know How to Flirt? Is Your Crush Crushing You Back? What's Your Ideal Guy Type? By Alloy Books. I gave 3 out of 5. As a teen, I loved quizzes and magazines. Once I even found an issue that was only quizzes that I wish I still had. I did get lucky though and came across this book at a library book sale. It's a collection of 20 quizzes, basically all about boys, which is extra fun for me, who isn't even straight. This was published in 2001, so the references on NSYNC and Dawson's Creek are a nice throwback that helped me channel my inner preteen. The quizzes were all multiple choice, and some were frustrating because there would only be 3 options, and they'd all be variations of yes, and my answer would be no, so my results were always a bit off. The results were weirdly negative too. Whether you were a lot, a little, or not at all of whatever that quiz was, there was some negativity thrown into it. Almost like they wanted to knock us all down a peg no matter what. The results were also too specific to the questions asked, so I'd get through all these questions and get a result that says I shouldn't take my friend's man after answering a specific question that said I wouldn't. Even though it's a mess, I did still thoroughly enjoy it and will be keeping this as a fun game to play with friends. Number 8, Teen Idol by Meg Cabot. I gave 3 out of 5. A hilariously cheesy teen comedy. Jenny runs an anonymous advice column at her school. Luke Stryker is a teen heartthrob actor who is going undercover at her school for 2 weeks to study for an upcoming role. She's assigned as his school guide and is supposed to help him maintain his anonymity. He basically just throws on some glasses and pulls a Clark Kent. He hardly changes his name either. He goes by Lucas instead of Luke. I already facepalmed at this point. He's there a brief period of time, and at a car wash, I think, everyone realizes he's Luke Stryker. Really? The hardly fake name, glasses, and being picked up from school every day in a limo didn't hide your identity? No way! As he's running free from the mob of fans, he calls for Jenny to hop in his limo with him. He takes her to his place where he's underage drinking, and he lectures her on how she's just as bad as the bullies at her school because she doesn't stand up against him. I don't think it's fair to say she's just as bad, but yes, it would be nice if she helped. He also asks to take her to her spring fling. At school, now that Luke is gone, Jenny asks the outcast of school if she can go to her house after class, and when she does, she gives her a makeover. Why can't you fight against the bullies while letting this girl just be herself? At school the next day, everyone is in awe of her makeover reveal, which happens at lunch, by the way. Apparently, no one saw her earlier in the day. The girls get a healthy lunch and sit at the table, and someone does end up still mooing at the outcast. That's why this girl was bullied, being plus-sized, and everyone would moo at her, and she'd get upset about it and have a big blowout. Jenny tells her not to react, and eventually the mooing stops, and that magically ends her high school bullying in that one instant. I wish someone had told me not reacting would magically make it stop right that instant. I do think it helps in most situations, but I don't think it would instantly stop immediately. The spring fling comes up and Jenny goes with Luke, who takes her on his motorcycle and her dress. She realizes a guy she's liked since middle school likes her back, and they get together while Luke just tells her that he's happy she stood up and fought against the bullying. It was okay, but a bit scattered and odd. Fun cheese though, I'd recommend it for that alone. Number 9, Boy Meets Boy by David Levithan. I gave 1 out of 5. An incredibly boring book that I don't have much to say on. Paul is a gay teenage sophomore, and this follows his struggles and path within that. There's a lot of side characters, and some people here feel like stereotypes more than well-rounded characters, sadly. Even the lead's main personality trait seems to just be gay. I don't hate this, but I am disappointed that I spent my time on it. Number 10, The Odyssey by Homer. I gave 0.5 out of 5. Unfortunately, I did not enjoy this. There's a war, unlikable characters, and lots of bad scenes with animals. Not my cup of tea, and now I'm nervous for the movie. That's all I've got to say there. That's all for today. I am finally almost caught up with my reading recaps. Good luck with progress on your to-read piles.